Bipolar disorder can be a crippling mental illness, and some patients don't always feel better on traditional medications. Ahead in our Health Beat, why some patients swear by a made in Alberta supplement, and now new research appears to back it up.
A new study offers evidence that a simple mix of vitamins and minerals can help a very complex problem. Bipolar disorder is a serious mental illness, traditionally treated with mood-stabilizing drugs. Michelle, for some patients, a nutritional supplement is really making a difference.
It is, Linda, and bipolar disorder is characterized by unpredictable mood swings between depression and mania. For some patients, though, traditional treatments don't always work. A new study shows high doses of a dietary supplement improved symptoms in the majority of patients.
The experience of bipolar is a fight in the mind. It's a really big fight in the brain because logically you know better, but emotionally you don't care, and so anything can happen. In the beginning, when I first started to notice symptoms, I was in public school, and I had just come from, the whole family had just moved from Mexico, the Mennonite colony in Mexico, and we moved to Ontario, Canada, and none of us spoke any English, so it was very difficult. But we had to go to school, to a public school, and then learn English, and it was difficult because I got picked on a lot, and so I immediately started to have symptoms of depression. And even though I was only there for a year and a half, the depression never went away. And I was about 15, and I started having manic episodes. My siblings started calling me weird because of weird behavior. And I wasn't very extreme manic, but definitely noticeable. And it was, at times, I would be the happiest person ever, and I'd be able to make an entire room full of people laugh for an hour. And then all of a sudden I'd be so depressed or anxious that I couldn't talk to anyone. I didn't want to talk to anyone. And it would be very difficult, and I always thought it was my fault. I always tried to understand what am I not thinking that I should be thinking in order to control my thoughts. I was finally diagnosed when I was 23. My symptoms had gotten pretty serious, especially the anxiety. It got to the point where I had constant headache because the muscles in my neck were so tense that I just couldn't function. And so I had to see a physical therapist, but it didn't. It helped temporarily, and so eventually I saw a doctor, a psychiatrist, and I explained my symptoms to her, and she said, well, I think you have depression and compulsive anxiety. And so she gave me sertraline, which is, I guess, the same thing as Zoloft, and I immediately got manic, very manic, and I hardly slept, but it was great fun. I wasn't depressed anymore. And so, when I went back, she said, you have bipolar, and she said, how do you feel about that? And I thought to myself, well, this is exciting, because this means that not only is it not my fault that I'm having these miserable experiences, but also there's a solution to the problem. And so for me, this was exciting. And she put me on Depakote, but that did not work. I was extremely tired, very depressed, did not work at all. So she put me on Abilify, and that immediately gave me akathisia. So I was only on it for a week. And good thing I came off of it as soon as I did, or it could have become permanent. But akathisia is a very, very fine tremor in the muscles, which is extremely uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable, it's almost painful. And after that, she put me on a Trileptal, which worked for a little while. I then had to go up, and then eventually it just didn't work anymore. Then I tried Zyprexa, which on the second day I took it, I slept 18 hours. It made me so tired. And so I couldn't take that. And then she put me on lithium, which didn't really work. And then I was put on Seroquel, Lamictal, and lithium all together. And that kind of worked, but the Seroquel also made me really tired. And I just got tired of medication. It's always a guessing game on how much you should take, what you should take, and you still end up having the symptoms. And so it was just such a miserable experience. My worst experiences were when I was already on medication, but I would have a manic and a depressed episode at the same time. So my thoughts would be racing, but because I was depressed, they would be negative. And nothing that I tried to think would make anything seem positive. All I could think was negative. And with racing negative thoughts, I just wished to die. I really did. I've never attempted suicide, but I don't think I've ever been so suicidal as I was at that time. I was on the internet one day and I thought, well, maybe I'll just Google something. And I Googled natural health remedies for bipolar on YouTube. I was just thrilled. I thought, this is good news. So I ordered it and immediately started on it, and slowly came off my medication and did better that spring than I ever did. Never ever have I had such a stable life, because I'm a rapid cycling bipolar, so that's anything that stresses me out or overwhelms me can throw me into a cycle. I think it's important for me to share my story because it helps to let people know that there are better alternatives out there. And for as much as I've suffered with all the miserable symptoms of bipolar, knowing that there are others out there who often suffer worse, I want to do anything I can to help them, is bigger than any psychiatrist or psychologist can make, because it removes the source of all the misery.
I started noticing the headaches come on the summer before my 9th grade year, which was around about 10 years ago. When I first noticed my headaches, I noticed all my friends would go out and start doing things, and all of a sudden I felt like I couldn't do anything. I had a really bad headache, and so I started just keeping myself out of all the activities that everybody was doing, and I found myself sleeping on the weekend nights just because my head hurt so bad I couldn't go out and do anything. The doctors diagnosed it as chronic headaches, so I'd go to bed with it, I'd wake up with it, and pretty much it never eased up. I'd wake up sometimes in the middle of the night because they were so bad. Once every other week to a couple times a month, I would have more a severe headache to migraine where I just couldn't do anything. It would get behind my eyes. Sometimes it would cause me to vomit, other times I couldn't see. I definitely couldn't be driving or do anything like that. I'd have to just kind of settle down. At first, in order to address my headaches, I went to several different doctors. We started with just our primary care physician, and then he sent us to some specialists. I ended up getting an MRI done. They couldn't find anything in the MRI, so then they sent us to the dentist to see if I was grinding my teeth. They tried giving me earplugs to see if it was something that was going on in the middle of the night that was happening. I've been to a chiropractor. They thought he did a little laser in my head and thought that that would help, just the infrared light. There was never any relief going through all those. I've been on several different medications, lots of different painkillers. I'd take it for about a week and a half to 2 weeks, and I didn't even notice any kind of difference, so I just stopped. I had a shoebox full of medication that just went under my bed, and I kept adding to it every time. If it wasn't worth taking, I wasn't going to take it. From the time I started taking it, I don't remember getting maybe 1 or 2 severe migraines, which weren't very severe, within a month of taking it. So I'd say at least after a month I no longer had any migraines. I still had my day-to-day headaches that continued probably for the next about 3 months is all. And then it wasn't even something I noticed that was gone. It was just one day all of a sudden I looked at my husband and I was like, you know what, I haven't had a headache for a while. They're gone.
I was 30 years old when I was first diagnosed with bipolar 2. Now looking back, I know that I struggled from my teenage years. Just everyone kind of wrote things off as just typical teenage behavior. But looking back, I know that it's not, and after years of counseling and seeing psychiatrists, you know that it wasn't normal teenage behavior. So, but I did make it through my teenage years and my early 20s. I had episodes of mania as well as depression. But it wasn't until I hit a really, really bad depression when I was about 30, after I had both my children, that my doctor finally sent me to see someone because he figured, well, this is not normal for me. So in a 2-year period, I was hospitalized 3 times for about a total of 6 months over those 3 times. But the last time I was in there, I finally talked to a nurse and just said, you know what, I don't belong here. I had 2 beautiful children. I had a loving husband, lived in a beautiful home, had a good job. I just didn't belong there. It just wasn't the place to get well for me. I asked the nurse, I said, okay, I don't belong here. I can't come back here. You know, how do I get better? Because these medications aren't working, and I believe they made my condition worse. I 100% believe that the medications made my condition way worse than before I was medicated. And so she sat down with me and she went through diet and nutrition and vitamins and other things that could help me on my way to wellness. And so that was kind of the first seed that was planted, that there had to be a natural way to deal with mental illness. November of 2007 that I started on the program and started to go off my medications, and at that time I think it was on 6 different medications. So it was a long process. Well, I guess now looking back, it wasn't. It seemed like it was a very long process. It was probably about 3 months. In January 2008, at the end of the month, I was completely off my my medications, my prescription medication. It took a while to realize that when things were bad, it was like a day and then things got better, or it was 2 days and then things got better. I think there's always that fear there that once you have a bad day, it's going to last forever again. And it's the moment you realize that, you know, it's just a day or 2 days or maybe an hour kind of thing now, that that you're better. I remember Christmas morning, and the kids got up and we heard them run down the stairs and then run back up, and Mommy, Daddy, Santa came. And I was excited for the first time in years, since I don't know if ever, maybe with my kids, that I was excited, and I jumped up and I ran downstairs and I was excited, and I turned to my husband and he looked at me, and it's like he knew, like I was feeling joy at an appropriate moment. And yeah, I think we knew everything was going to be okay, and everything's been okay. For Tony and David, just the biggest thank you for your persistence and for wanting something better for your family. You know, to find something that would work, that would be life-changing for your family, but then now to reach out to so many people.
At the age of 20 years, in the spring of 2001, I began to suffer with auditory hallucinations. I heard voices, extremely negative voices. They were at me all day long. I developed a fascination for knives, axes, and weapons. I was experiencing fits of uncontrollable rage, physically striking out at family members. I soon became a real threat to my family and myself. They began to live in fear that I would not only hurt them and their surroundings, but I began expressing suicidal intent. I was very ill and was hospitalized with a diagnosis of schizophrenia. I was hospitalized for 2 months. I was on a cocktail of medications, and some of them had very severe side effects. I was gaining weight uncontrollably. I gained 50 pounds in the 2nd month. I lived in a fog. I don't even remember the first month's stay. I was non-existent and a zombie. While in the second month of my hospital stay, through my father's persistence, I was able to begin a minimal dose. Within 3 months of being home, I was medication-free and doing all the things I used to do. Within 6 months, I was able to return to work full-time. In March 2003, my life took a turn. I met the love of my life, Brenna. We were married in December of that year and honeymooning for Christmas in Hawaii. We began to enjoy life together. Brenna and I now have 3 daughters and a 4th on the way. The girls are healthy, bright, happy, and advanced for their ages. All of them scored highest on APGAR scores as babies. We'd love to travel as a family. Recently we took a train across Canada and back to visit the girls' great-grandmother and great-great-grandmother. If you were to ask our oldest daughter, she would tell you her favorite part of the trip was the desserts. We do all the things a normal family does. We go swimming, fish at the local pond, go for walks, to play in the park. We love to read together, whether it is the scriptures or the newest storybook. I cannot imagine how difficult it was for my parents when they had to make the decision to have me hospitalized. I can only imagine the pain and the suffering they went through when I was given my formal diagnosis. I can also imagine the joy and gratitude in their hearts when my life and my health began to return to normal. That I am a son, a brother, a husband, and a father. I live with 0 symptoms of schizophrenia. I'm grateful for the knowledge that I have that allows me to maintain my health and live a normal life. I don't have symptoms. I don't have racing thoughts. I don't hear voices any longer, and I don't see things. People take their health very seriously when they have not had their health. When they regain their health with something as simple but impactful as nutrition, they don't want to lose it. When you don't have your health, you definitely don't have much.